Beast Games production was so void of standards of reasonable care that MrBeast allegedly offered to cover contestants' therapy. They were like, yeah, blood, we traumatized the out of you, our bad. You want to talk to somebody about it? We'll cover that. Allegedly.
Subscribe!
This is the MrBeast lawsuit. So when a lot of the allegations were coming out, there was sort of like a journalistic whispering that something really bad was going on in regards to the Beast Games in, I believe it was in Las Vegas. And a lot of the stuff that was included as like part of these like whisperings, these rumors, were indefensibly severe. So I want to read through this document as a lawsuit has been filed. It seems that there are 5 main contestants that have filed this lawsuit with their lawyers. And we're going to go through and see what they are alleging. I want to be clear that any claims made in this video are via the document. I am not making any claims. All claims are alleged. Just as a little teaser, as a little taste test, if you will. Failure to pay minimum wages. Liquidated damages for failure to pay minimum wages, failure to pay overtime, sexual harassment, failure to prevent sexual harassment, negligent infliction of emotional distress, failure to provide uninterrupted meal breaks, failure to provide uninterrupted rest breaks, failure to pay wages promptly upon termination, failure to provide accurate and itemized wage statements, failure to indemnify for employee expenses and losses in discharging duties, unfair business practices, false advertising, and declaratory relief. That's a lot of stuff. I'm really interested in this claim that they're employees because these are contestants on the Beast Games. So a lot of these are surrounding them being actual employees of MrBeast Corporation or whatever. So I want to see how they're like justifying that or if that's true. But I guess we just got to read. I'm so sorry, by the way. I am not very good at reading out loud. I was not one of those kids that particularly enjoyed popcorn reading in school. So if I struggle, it's because I'm illiterate. I'm illiterate and you can't be mean to me because it's not my fault. I have ADHD and that's a learning disability. And if you're mean to me for stumbling over my words, you're ableist and I'm going to cancel you on Twitter. Plaintiffs bring this action on behalf of themselves and a proposed class consisting of all individuals who are engaged as purported contestants in the Beast Games content production in blah, 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 blah. There's a lot of stuff that is redacted in here. I'm guessing most likely to protect people's personal information who do not want to be public figures. And also probably some stuff that is still being, battled about on the courts, essentially. Defendant production companies and Amazon shamelessly exploited the labor of approximately blank people who served as contestants on the forthcoming $100 million MrBeast Amazon production Beast Games or production. So that's how it'll be referred to in the document, which Amazon promotes as the world's largest live game show with the biggest single prize in the history of television and streaming. The Beast Games entertainment value arises directly from the physical and emotional labor of the contestants who compete under pressure cooker conditions for life-changing prize money, with one person purportedly to win $5 million in the end. My bit of commentary that I would like to have here first is, I don't really understand the want to recreate like Squid Games. It feels often like MrBeast watched Squid Games one time and was like, yes, this is gonna be my entire personality now. To want to recreate Squid Game and to want to be like the puppet master of the Squid Game is a very odd thing, I think, characteristically, because the whole point of that is about like the greed the rich take from the poor kind of thing. They take advantage of the poor. It's exploitative. It's horrendous. It's disgusting. It's horrific. Like, it's not a fun thing that you're watching. Squid Games is a horror show, essentially. So like, I never understood why there was this like incredible like desire to recreate like the Squid Games, because it's inherently exploitative, because that's literally the point of the concept. This is like a weird sort of like philosophical thing that I'm trying to say, but I guess to me it speaks oddly to MrBeast's character and to Amazon as well, for like, I saw Squid Games and I want to make that a reality, because the whole point of that show is like how awful it is that they're going through this, that they're being taken advantage of. Defendant, MrBeast 2024 LLC, so this is the production company, believed to be owned in full or in part, directly or indirectly, by James Jimmy Donaldson, the creator and face of the YouTube-originated MrBeast brand. Mr. Donaldson is a 26-year-old content creator who, on information and belief, has the most YouTube subscribers in the world and is the first YouTube billionaire. The MrBeast entertainment empire produces stunt philanthropy, which typically features MrBeast performing corporate-sponsored, attention-getting philanthropy for publicity. Scathing. The business model essentially is that MrBeast performs giving away some corporate money, whether pallets of cash, cars, or even houses to strangers or followers, and his corporate sponsors compensate him with even more corporate money. This is basically saying, like, your philanthropy's fake and you make so much more than you give away, and that's like your whole business model, is that you give away stuff to make yourself seem good, but you're really just kind of taking a bunch of money in the back end. Mr. Donaldson, who has publicly represented that all MrBeast contestants get paid if they compete for just 5 minutes, gushed to his fans online about the bigger than ever scale of the Amazon-sponsored Beast Games, stating that money was not a constraint and that Amazon had given Mr. Donaldson all creative control and the ability to do whatever he wanted. Unfortunately, the supposedly magnanimous MrBeast, oh my god, the supposedly the language of this is so fun. Like, they're being very shady, like, with the way that they're using their words. Like, the supposedly magnanimous MrBeast did not want to use the alleged unconstrained resources to provide fair wages, or even bare minimum legal working conditions to the blank contestants whose labor compromised the core commercial value of Beast Games. Instead, defendants employed superior bargaining power to coerce the contestants to sign unconscionable contracts with illegal terms and illusory obligations, and also knowingly mischaracterize the contestants to avoid defendants' employment obligations under California law. Defendants knowingly misclassified the contestants in part to obtain a tax credit for $2,252,523 from the state of Nevada, which defendants, on information and belief, would not have received if they had disclosed the production's actual labor costs, including the significant labor of the contestants, in the budget they presented to the Nevada Film Commission with their tax credit application. So what this is alleging is that they miscategorized all of the contestants as not being employees so that they didn't have proper employment protections, and additionally to file a tax credit in the state of Nevada. However, if I'm not mistaken, let me look up something. Where is MrBeast's Corp set up? Because my question is because what they're saying, because I believe this all happened in Las Vegas, right? And so this tax return, this tax write-off was filed in Nevada. They're saying they count as employees via California law, but I'm not sure that where his LLC is registered. Maybe California due to Amazon's, oh, that could be it, true. Due to Amazon's involvement, that might be why California's coming into it. That makes sense as well. I'm just curious because there's like multiple states involved, but I am pretty sure he's based in North Carolina. MrBeast LLC is registered as a Greenville, North Carolina business. So it's either Amazon's involvement or it's because of like, is it YouTube? Is it like because they're Californian residents? Like, I have a lot of questions about this and I'm not of the legal mind to understand it. So basically what they're trying to allege is that these contestants should have been considered actual employees. They did not report them that way and misclassified them in order to get a tax credit. And also it meant that they got less general protections as employees would typically get. But there's kind of some mumbo jumbo about what state everything is based in. Also, $2 million of a tax credit for something like that is insane. Defendants then induced Blank to serve contestants on their $100 million production based on a false representation that 1,000 people would be competing to win a $5 million prize, announcing only upon the contestants' arrival, reducing the contestants' odds of winning before the competition began. What I am hearing here is MrBeast, the defendants, right? They said that there was going to be 1,000 people, but that number, whatever the number of people competing was, changed significantly when they arrived, meaning that they were reduced odds of winning. So it seems like they significantly increased the number of contestants, which I think is a fair thing to be upset about, though I don't know if it's like suable, because it means that you were misled on like what your actual odds of winning the money was. Defendants further relied on the misclassification as a false justification to avoid paying employment taxes and to spare the production the cost of implementing various employment protections required under California law. Defendants then subjected the contestants to unreasonable, unsafe, and unlawful employment conditions. On, I'm guessing this is a date, defendants began the Beast Games by something where the contestants were held under strict control and surveillance for days on end. During the Beast Games engagement, the on-set production staff maintained the strictest control over the contestants, denying them privacy and access to the real world. The outside world, excuse me. The contestants were fed sporadically and sparsely. They were not given adequate access to hygiene products or medical care. This was something that had come out previously, that people were not being given their medications, which is like a huge deal, and people weren't getting like sanitary stuff for like women and things like that. So this had been part of like the rumors that were circulating. This is now, it seems, in this document. The New York Times reported that over a dozen people who participated in the first installment of the Beast Games said they had not received adequate food or medical care, and that some competitors had suffered injuries from the physical challenges. That is a big deal. The female contestants particularly and collectively suffered as a result of defendants' actions. The Beast Games work environment systematically fostered a culture of misogyny and sexism where production staff did nothing while something happened that is redacted. Female contestants were also denied something that's redacted, and defendants callously dismissed another thing that's redacted. So I guess either we'll see this in court cases or we will never know what any of this was. Defendants' violations of California law have caused common injuries, in fact, that are redressable and conducive to resolution as a class action, where all the following material facts are common to all contestants. Defendants offered the contestants equivalent compensation for equivalent labor. Defendants misclassified the contestants in a uniform manner. Defendants subjected all of the contestants to the same material working conditions, including a hostile work environment for the female contestants. Defendants have improperly denied or delayed the contestants overdue wages, penalties, and/or reimbursements. So this is giving justification for the fact that it's a class action lawsuit, essentially, which I believe means that more contestants over time could join the lawsuit. If I'm not mistaken, that's how that works. But this is giving justification that they were all wronged in the same way, essentially, across the board. The plaintiffs have filed this action using pseudonyms and applying conservative redaction. Oh, here we go. Okay, all right, fair. The plaintiffs have filed this action using pseudonyms and applying conservative redactions that limit public viewing in a good faith effort to comply with defendants' overbroad confidentiality provisions, which plaintiffs allege are unenforceable, as well as preserve the confidentiality and privacy interests of the plaintiffs who wish to avoid opprobrium, which means harsh criticism or censure. I can read, I swear. So this explains why so much is redacted. It is to try and comply with NDA requirements, which they're saying are unenforceable. However, they don't want to cause themselves to be countersued for breaking NDA requirements. And additionally, they do not want the contestants that are now suing to be, harassed online, because that's almost certainly what would happen. So we continue. This is about the jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is okay, so this is the justification of doing it in LA, like California. Jurisdiction is proper in the Superior Court for the County of Los Angeles pursuant to the blah, blah, blah code because it has general subject matter jurisdiction and no statutory exceptions to jurisdiction exist. The amount of controversy exceeds the jurisdictional minimum of this court. I don't know what that means, but I am assuming it is a justification that makes sense in legal speak. Venue is proper because it is a putative class action complaint, because this is a county in which damages arise, because this is the county in which at least 2 of the lead plaintiffs reside. Okay. And this is the county where one of the defendants has a principal place of business. So one of the defendants is based in LA, which I'm assuming is probably Amazon. And at least 2 of the plaintiffs actually live in LA, California. So that is why it is being filed in California, and we're going on like Californian employment law. Okay. I appreciate that. That's good to know. Okay, man. Okay, the facts. The contestants engaged in what appeared to be a thorough application and vetting process for Beast Games. The first step in the application progress was to submit redacted. Once accepted, redacted, the contestants were required to put their lives on hold, redacted, to provide labor exclusively for defendants in exchange for compensation and a chance to win $5 million prize on Beast Games. The contestants incurred supposedly reimbursable business-related travel expenses, redacted, for which many, including contestant 2 and contestant 3, have not been reimbursed. So they're also alleging that they were promised reimbursement for certain, like, you know, costs that they never got the money for. This is just like fully redacted, saying that they entered into an agreement that they all agreed to something that is redacted. The contestants were employees under California law, but defendants intentionally misclassified them to defendants' economic advantage. Defendants wrongfully and willfully misclassified, and on information and belief continue to wrongfully misclassify the contestants, although they should legally be classified as employees. The contestant agreement states on its face that the contestants blank redacted, but the arrangement was in fact an employment arrangement whereby defendants, Amazon, Off One's Base, and MrBeast were the actual employers of the contestant / employees. The contestants were not volunteers. The contestants were promised and received compensation in exchange for their services. So they are saying essentially because everyone was supposed to receive some amount of compensation for their time, that they count as employees via Californian law, which would provide them more protections based upon which to sue. Essentially what they're saying is they were employees, you mischaracterized them because it meant you had to care less, and also because it let you do a lot of tax credits. And additionally, on top of that, you're kind of doing tax fraud high-key allegedly. Additionally, Mr. Donaldson made public statements online that he had unconstrained control over Beast Games, and Donaldson had established a pattern and practice of compensating everyone who competes in MrBeast competitions, win or lose, even if they competed for only 5 minutes. So they're saying he even said online that he pays everybody who does his shows, who does his stuff. The contestants were not working for free for the Beast Games for any humanitarian or any other public service or charitable objective. So this is making it clear that they weren't working for free. And it wasn't like a charity thing. It wasn't a donation of their time. They weren't volunteers. They were paid employees, essentially. Allegedly, defendants hired the contestants to work as contestants on a reality competition show. The contestants in reality were told if they accepted the opportunity to work for defendants, they would be available for more redacted. They were working for defendants. They would not be able to accept any other employment. So they're also making it clear that they were exclusive during this time to the MrBeast production, and that they not only did not go and do other work, but they were told that they were not allowed to essentially accept any other employment and get any other work done. The contestants had no autonomy. Defendants exercised complete control, which I think this part for me, even if they weren't employees, I think this part is like frightening sort of statement, because that's kind of, you know, why the Squid Games in the first place is like super duper up, and why it's like a tale of caution. It's a sad, bad story. It's a horrifying story, is because it's about taking away autonomy and using people. Defendants exercise total control over the manner, means, and timing of the work performed by the contestants by controlling essentially every aspect of their lives during the production of the show. This included, but is not limited to, requiring redacted, controlling redacted, controlling redacted, controlling redacted, preventing them redacted, controlling redacted, and directing redacted. I want to know what's under the bar! Please let me read it! Remove it! When and where. Defendants required the contestants to be physically present on specific dates and times around the clock at locations dictated, controlled, and supervised by defendants, for which dates and locations redacted. Defendants further required plaintiffs dedicate all of their time to the production during the production period, requiring them to miss other work if they had other jobs. Defendants also purport to control a very long redaction. So again, this is where they were, what they did, how they did it. They were supervised, they were controlled, and they were not allowed to take part in other gainful employment while they were part of this production. Access to personal belongings. Upon the arrival of the Beast Games, I am going to assumptively say that they are alleging that upon the arrival of the Beast Games, they took their away. Restricted movement. Defendants corralled the contestants into tightly controlled redacted, where they were actively supervised by production staff around the clock without any privacy. So they weren't allowed to go anywhere. They were kind of corralled into a specific room and area, and redacted. Also, control over meals is insane. Defendants control when, where, and what the contestants redacted. The limited sustenance that defendants provided afforded an unreasonable and insufficient caloric intake, which collectively and in a uniform manner endangered the health and welfare of the contestants. During their time redacted, the contestants had to suffer through redacted. When defendants allowed the contestants to have food, redacted. When you try to recreate the freaking Squid Games, yes, but like the whole point of the Squid Games is it's really up and wrong. You don't actually have to treat them like the people in the Squid Games in order to make a Squid Games like competition show. You could just treat people humanely, but they chose instead to recreate it, I guess, very, very faithfully, which is, i.e., wrong. Control over clothing. Defendants control the clothing that contestants wore. Redacted. One day, defendants corralled the contestants. Redacted. Control over sleeping arrangements. Defendants controlled where, how, and whether the contestants slept. So, okay, where, how, and whether the contestants slept is insane. With people's sleep is like a torture method in like a lot of places. Where, how, and whether on sleep, I just think is unacceptable. Control over medications and recreational substances. That's a big deal. Upon their arrival, defendants separated the contestants. Redacted. Defendants did not allow contestants to redacted. This was a rumor, allegedly, that was going around when the original MrBeast stuff came up, which was that people were not being given their actual medications at all, which, again, you can make a Squid Games-like competition without actually treating people like it's Squid Games. The point of the Squid Games is that what they did was wrong. Exposed to dangerous conditions. The contestants were exposed to dangerous circumstances and conditions as a condition of their employment, even without considering whatever confidential conditions existed behind closed doors while the Beast Games was being filmed. The contestants were subjected to dangerous conditions within the course of their employment. As local news reported, many contestants found it was poor set conditions rather than challenges themselves that proved to be the main difficulty. So they're alleging that they understood that there were dangerous conditions attached to the competition that they were going to be in. However, that the primary source of those poor conditions were due to the set, due to negligence and laziness allegedly from like the staff, and not actually from the challenges that were supposed to be sort of like the dangerous conditions. The contestants were penned into enclosed spaces with redacted under conditions where they were underfed, overtired, redacted, and competing in stressful and exhausting challenges for a cash prize that could change their lives. The danger, moreover, was exacerbated by defendants' seeming failure to conduct background checks. If you are doing an event where you are taking away people's freedom, you are having complete control over them, and you are taking away their medications, and you are not dispensing those medications properly, I don't even think I need to describe why that is horrific and incredibly dangerous. I don't care if it's incompetence, it's still criminal. And if it's not criminal, it's definitely worth suing over, if it is true and not just alleged accusations. This is a tweet from Rosanna Pansino that is being used as evidence. I don't know if this is good evidence. I don't know. There's also redacted stuff, so I don't know. But Rosanna Pansino's tweet was, I have received confirmation from 5 verified contestants that the first round of Beast Games, a man named Armani Izzati was allowed to compete. He was previously charged with at least 20 counts for battery, kidnapping, pandering (pimping), and robbery. He pled guilty to the pimping charge, acknowledging the significant evidence against him. He allegedly also slept near female contestants before being kicked off set for inappropriate behavior. Some of the female contestants confirmed being very uncomfortable around him. He was also friends with Jake, being very uncomfortable around him. He was also friends with Jake Paul and other influencers. Why was there not adequate background checks to catch people like this? Again, this is alleged. This is a tweet. Can't be like necessarily 100% confirmed, especially because half of this is obviously redacted. If so, insane. As a condition of their employment, defendants required each contestant to enter a contract of adhesion that was drafted by defendants, which plaintiffs and the proposed class, which is all of the class action people, given to sign under expedient circumstances, meaning they had to sign it quickly and probably they're arguing like without being fully understanding of what is in it. On about June 6, 2024, on information and belief, the application period for Beast Games opened, redacted to complete in the unprecedented Beast Games. Defendants enjoyed superior bargaining power and used it to impose terms and conditions that are unlawful under California law, including ex-labor code. Defendants demanded, for instance, redacted in violation of FEHA, and in particular, that code. They also required the plaintiffs to redacted in violation of that code. So they're saying that because they had more bargaining power and the lawyers were on their side and they created the contracts that allowed them to compete in those games, that they were trying to get them to agree to a lot of that is like illegal to require from an employee because they misclassified ex-employee. Allegedly, according to the document. Defendants failed to provide a safe and healthful place of employment to the particular and collective detriment of the female contestants who suffered sexual harassment. So this is pretty crazy, but overall, what it seems like is that they put a bunch of people in a room and didn't have a lot of oversight other than controlling every single thing they did. But like overall, it seems like it was a bit of like Lord of the Flies. You know, they just kind of did whatever. It seems like they allowed the contestants to do whatever, except for not what they decided was wrong, I guess. Like, they can't eat or sleep or do anything else without us asking, but otherwise, we're not going to protect you at all or watch what you're doing. Production defendants created working conditions that jeopardize the safety of workers, including by not providing sufficient food or drink, taking away their access to redacted, not having adequate medical staff on site, and not providing reasonable medical care, forcing them not to sleep, and forcing them to participate in games that unreasonably risk physical and mental injury. So yeah, we just really wanted like real life Squid Game. Forcing people to not sleep is really up. Can I just say that? And I know that there are going to be these people who are going to be like, well, they could have left it every time. But that doesn't make the conditions that they created okay. Yes, they could have left at any time, and I'm sure many of them did leave. But the fact that the conditions were like this at all in a production of this size is unconscionably, insanely irresponsible and dangerous. And I don't think that, oh, because they could have left makes it okay that they didn't do bare minimum to protect themselves and protect the people that were making them money. Even if they're not employees, this production stood to make them an absolutely absurd amount of money. And the fact that they treated people this way, allegedly, regardless of them being allowed to leave, is awful. But it's also like these are people who probably joined because $5 million would be relatively life-changing. I know $5 million for me would be quite life-changing. I don't know about any of y'all. If y'all be money bags, y'all should like send me some. I don't know. But like $5 million is life-changing. Some people with $5 million could like solve all of their problems. So even if they're being treated horribly, if they're desperate and they need $5 million, because I think most people would be very, their lives would be totally transformed by that, you're gonna stay. And so like, regardless of them being able to leave, they should not create conditions like that. Production defendants additionally created a toxic and hostile work environment for, in particular, the female contestants who suffered redacted as well as sexual harassment throughout the production, as more fully detailed below, which was not only noticed but allowed by even redacted by the production defendants. And apparently this was allowed because of marching orders from the top, which is a crazy ass accusation. Purported How to Succeed in MrBeast Production Handbook states that it's okay for boys to be childish, and if talent wants to draw a dick on the whiteboard in the video or do something stupid, let them. Really do everything you can to empower the boys when filming and help them make content. Help them be idiots. I will say that I understand that for legal proceedings, taking every single thing into consideration and using every single thing that they can as like ammunition is good. However, I would like to believe, I guess, in my heart of hearts, that there was not an employee handbook that was specifically saying, let the boys be boys, they can do whatever they want, even if it's a little bit of sexual harassment. I feel like this could be, I guess, misrepresented or taken out of context, in my opinion. But again, if there is a boys will be boys culture that the boys can do whatever they want, that is obviously a problem in any company. It definitely enables like bad behavior. A document that appears to be a MrBeast employee handbook was written in the first person from what appears to be Mr. Donaldson's perspective, entitled How to Succeed in MrBeast Production, also known as the MrBeast Handbook. was published on the internet on August 13th, 2024 by YouTube creator Rosanna Pansino, who alleges that she received it and confirmed its authenticity with 2 MrBeast employees. This alleged MrBeast handbook provided insight into the boys will be boys working conditions that are seemingly promoted by Mr. Donaldson, which, if such MrBeast handbook is indeed distributed to MrBeast production staff, advises employees really do everything you can to empower the boys when filming and help them make content. Help them be idiots, emphasis added. And if talent wants to draw a dick on the whiteboard in the video or do something stupid, let them. When I heard the boys, in my head, what I assume is that they mean like MrBeast and like the primary MrBeast bloods, like his gang. Helping the boys make content apparently translated to something redacted that probably is not very good. The apparent MrBeast ethos of helping the boys be idiots seemed to pave the way for production staff to allow lots of redactions here on information and belief, lots of redactions, contestant 4's and 5's experiences, as further detailed below, corroborate these reports. These are all very redacted. So I'm assuming that these are various forms of alleged sexual harassment and so on. But we don't know because there's the big black bars, which again, I understand, but I want to know the tea, I guess. Contestants 4 and 5 witnessed insane redacted. By refusing to intervene, redacted, production defendants created, permitted to exist, and fostered a culture and pattern and practice of sexual harassment, including in the form of hostile work environment where redacted. So this is saying that the production team knew that the sexual harassment was occurring, did not intervene, and then therefore promoted and enabled the continued shit culture. At all relevant times on information and belief, defendants management up to and including senior management and ownership had actual and or constructive notice that the violence and sexual harassment detailed herein was occurring within the workplace. So this is acknowledging and making concrete their liability for that like they were aware of it and they did do nothing. At all relevant times on information and belief, defendants management up to and including senior management and ownership had actual and or constructive notice that its production staff was aware of but failed to remedy the violence and sexual harassment detailed herein. So they're saying management knew, all the way up to the top knew, all the way to the bottom knew, toes to the top of the head. Every single person in the production was very much aware that there was violence and sexual harassment occurring, and they did nothing to do it. On March 18th, 2024, Amazon shared the news that MrBeast and Amazon MGM Studios announced the new reality competition series, Beast Games. The new show will premiere on Prime Video and is set to become the biggest reality competition series where 1,000 contestants will compete for a $5 million prize. However, it seems that was not actually the number of contestants. So Mr. Donaldson himself also announced that same day on his MrBeast Twitter account that the Beast Games competition, that I'm going to be filming the largest game show in history and releasing it on Prime Video. Over 1,000 contestants. That says over 1,000 contestants. $5 million prize, and many other world records, emphasis added. Accordingly, at all relevant times, defendants Amazon, One-Off Space, and MrBeast held themselves out collectively as the creators, promoters, and producers of the Beast Games, and all did so in order to profit from the endeavor. Defendants widely promoted right through the first day of MrBeast Games competitions, redacted that there would be 1,000 people competing. Technically speaking, and I don't mean to be nitpicky, and I don't mean to defend Mr. Breast, because I've never really been a fan of Mr. Jimmy Donaldson. Technically speaking, that does say over 1,000. I do think that it might be defensible. I don't know. But that depends on how much over 1,000, because if it's like 2,000 or 3,000, then that's kind of a problem. However, it is important to understand that like a false advertisement of how many contestants would be there does very much matter, obviously. And I don't want to like diminish that. However, the contestants who had traveled, redacted, having blocked off redacted, that was required by defendants to compete in Beast Games, only first found out that when the competition started that redacted. Okay, this did not sit well with the contestants, who made their feelings known to the New York Times reporter Kersher, who reported that right from the start, things seemed off. Some contestants said they had originally been told that the competition would have 1,000 participants. This was also the figure advertised by Prime Video earlier this year. Kersher went on to add that after learning the contestants would be competing against redacted, some said they felt they had been misled about their odds of winning. Because that is like, if there's a really big difference between, okay, you're competing against 1,000 people for the 5 million and 2,000 people, or like if it was like 40, you know what I mean? And so like, I do think that that is like, I don't even know what the point of having that many more contestants is. And additionally, on top of that, if you don't have the infrastructure to give people their medicine, you probably shouldn't be taking in more than 1,000 people, or even actually 1,000 people. Maybe if we had not made the production so absolutely insane and sought to make it as close to Squid Games as possible, if we had reduced the number of people in the Beast Games, we could have taken care of them properly. Defendants misrepresented that reasonable meal needs would be met. The Beast Games production represented in the Beast Games rule packet that the redacted would be provided by defendants. So this is saying that defendants, i.e. MrBeast and Amazon and all that, would be providing the meals for, I'm assuming, the meals for the plaintiffs. Defendants failed to mention, however, that these redacted, if they could be called that, would be infrequently provided and insufficient in the number of calories in each meal, where plaintiffs allege, by way of example, redacted. So they're saying that there's significantly less food than they should have been given, with significantly less nutritional value and caloric, requirements. They weren't meeting basic needs. Indeed, according to local news reports, countless Beast Games contestants were taken to the hospital, including for dehydration, coming from Beast Games due to lack of food and water, and that the production had allegedly denied food to diabetics, denied water to contestants, and at least 2 individuals had seizures as a result. Which again, if true, allegedly denying food to diabetics, like, you could have killed somebody. Like, let's be clear. If we're not giving people their food, we're not giving people their water, we're not making sure that diabetics are able to manage their, their insulin, you could have killed people. The Beast Games production was so void of standards of reasonable care that MrBeast allegedly offered to cover contestants' therapy. They were like, yeah, blood. Allegedly, they were like, yeah, blood, we traumatized the out of you. Our bad. You want to talk to somebody about it? We'll pay for it. We'll cover that. Defendants, apparently aware of the severe distress they caused contestants by their lack of reasonable care in conducting the production, allegedly offered to cover the contestants' therapy. Pansino has reported on alleged contestants informing her that defendants knew it was bad because they also offered to provide therapy sessions using their own insurance. I am assuming that they have made this a class action lawsuit and are specifically referencing Rosanna Pansino's claims in the hopes that more people will join the lawsuit. That would be my assumption, because I believe, and again, I'm not a lawyer. This is kind of based off of like layman's knowledge, right? But if it's a class action, people can join in later and be like, yes, I was wronged in that way. So it could be that they are specifically utilizing Pansino because some of the people talking to her have not joined the class action lawsuit they're trying to create. And so that's why they're arguing like all of them are wronged in the same way and not making individual cases, because it can mean like a generalized payout that is like very, damaging to the corporations. Plaintiff's individual experiences. Yeah, this is going to be a lot of redacted since it's individual and they're trying to, protect their identities. Contestant 1 was employed by defendants in redacted. Defendants arranged and paid for contestant 1's redacted during their services for defendants. Contestant 1 understood that they would be compensated by defendants for their services. Defendants took more than 30 days after contestant 1's conclusion of services to pay contestant 1 the promised payment. So that means they're not paying in a reasonable amount of time. Understood they would be compensated for their services. To date, they have not reimbursed. Okay, so this one is saying that they are not being reimbursed, likely for those like travel costs we were referring to earlier. The contestant 3, they have not been reimbursed for something. Redacted. Contestant 4, a female, was employed by defendants. Contestant 4 understood they would be compensated. This is an entire page. This is an entire page of just nothing but redactions. Whatever happened to contestant 5 is crazy. General allegations. So plaintiffs bring this action pursuant to that code on behalf of themselves and the following proposed class. All individuals who were engaged as purported contestants in the Beast Games content production, redacted. And these are for violations of the California Labor Code and the Business and Professions Code. For unpaid minimum wages, unpaid overtime wages, penalties, failure to provide accurate wage statements or any statements, meal break penalties, rest break penalties, waiting time penalties, statutory penalties, liquidated damages, declaratory and injunctive relief, attorney's fees and costs, interest including prejudgment interest, and any other relief as the court may deem fair. So this is saying, because we are saying that they were employees and they were misclassified as not being employees, as being essentially volunteers, but because they should have been classified as employees, they are now entitled to all of these things that employees would get under California law, i.e. rest breaks, meal breaks, etc. Contestants 4 and 5 also bring this action on behalf of themselves and the purported subclass, all women who were engaged as purported contestants in the Beast Games video content production, for statutory penalties, declaratory relief, and injunctive relief in the form of ordering defendants to institute workplace reforms and training programs for employees and supervisors to prevent further harassment, including sexual harassment, as well as for punitive damages, attorney's fees and costs, interest including prejudgment interest, and any other relief as the court may deem fair. So this is saying, as employees, as we are alleging that they are, these last two contestants are demanding essentially for them to have reform the workplace, to do training programs, and to prevent further sexual harassment, etc. And also all of the money stuff. So that's fair, I think, if all that is alleged is true. And whatever is under those black bars is as awful as it sounds under the black bar. Fair. I don't know that any of the rest of this is super relevant, but this is going over everything they want to be paid for and everything they're essentially suing for. I don't know how much of this we really need to go over in specific. I think a lot of the other stuff was kind of the basis of it, and this is going in so far as to like go in further into the employment purchase of that, you know? The long and short of it is, the main things that they are suing regarding, the biggest claim that they're kind of basing a lot of what they're suing for and a lot of their justification for is this concept that they are actually employees. They were not just volunteers. They were misclassified as being volunteers for tax credits, and so that they did not have the normal protection of employees. Because they are employees, they have additional justification for the lawsuit via, several codes, via, California, being that you can't have sexual harassment in the workplace, etc., and that they were not paid properly, or they were not paid within a reasonable amount of time, or they were not paid at all. And then there's sort of the additional stuff that is kind of there regardless of whether or not they are literally employees, which is that there was rampant sexual harassment that everyone in production was aware of and did nothing to prevent. That sexual harassment is in fact, encouraged and enabled by the company culture, with evidence of that MrBeast handbook as part of it, that they were the derelict in their duty to take care of the people that were participating in the games, taking away their communication with the outside world, taking away their medications and not dispensing them properly, not feeding them properly, not giving them water properly, not giving proper medical care, not properly preventing injury, etc., 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 etc. Essentially just that this entire production was a mess of incompetence that actually legitimately caused people harm. And that's what they're suing for. I think the employment part of this is to try to get additional justification and additional kind of like charges against them, more so on the business particular side. So they have to change how they do their business, essentially. But I think a lot of the claims stand regardless of them being employees, because if this is true, and they had more than 1,000, maybe 2,000, I've seen a couple different numbers in chat, but it was more than 1,000 people come to be in a competition where they took away their clothes, they took away their personal belongings, they took away their medications, they took away their contact to the outside world, and then they didn't provide adequate nutrition, sleep, food, water, all of that stuff, regardless of whether or not they're employees. That's inhumane and disgusting. And if they are employees, it gives them additional justification for more damages and etc. So that seems to be the summary of it. I'm sure I missed some things or didn't say something completely correct because, again, I don't know that much about the law. I'm just somebody who can get context clues going. If half of this is true, it's horrendous. If all of this is true, it's unspeakably abominable and horrendous and awful and disgusting and shocking. And everyone should be held accountable. if these things are true, again, this is all alleged, and I do not wish to be sued, and I'm not saying that anything is fact, even if I am inclined to believe what they said is true. Because rumors have been coming out about this for months, and now we have an official actual lawsuit, and it is class action, which means that more can be added as more individuals join that class action lawsuit. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Like, what do you think? I don't even know, like, specifically what to ask. Like, what is your reaction? How do you feel about everything in this? I try to be as respectful and intelligent in my commentary as possible, and try to give accurate information as far as, like, putting it into layman's terms. So I hope that helped, because I know a lot of people aren't reading lawyers' documents. But yeah, let me know what you think down below. Love yourself, drink water, just eat a regular Hershey's bar, Feastables. I'll see y'all later. Goodbye!